Pause that. Yeah.
Zoom active. Well, I guess depending on like where, I mean, for me, the camera, you get for.
Started as soon as the rest of attendees come in and have a seat. Want to make sure everyone here. Sign in.
Yeah, so that would be good. Yeah. You just do, that's right. Still. Really? Yeah.
Well, actually, it's like, you're farmers. As of now.
As of now, sort of be friendly.
No, no. Everyone is signed up to see. Hi, everybody. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the chapter 34 short-term rental public hearing. We definitely scheduled it in the right venue. So just a couple of housekeeping items. We're asking that folks sign in. Some folks have indicated that they wish to speak, so I'll just go in order of the sign sheet. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak to the short-term rental ordinance. After we'll give them when they've got 30 seconds left, so it's time to wrap it up. We do have folks zooming in. There's no way for them to participate, so we're going to leave comment period open until Wednesday. So if there is anyone zooming in that wishes to offer up their opinion on tonight's hearing, then they have a chance to do so. The Board of Selectmen are taking no action tonight. The hearing is for the public, for you to comment, and hopefully you've got the latest draft of the chapter 34 ordinance in front of you. So we're going to start off. I'm going to read the intro letter that the Board of Selectmen wrote. For the sake of those of you who can't be here, and we'll get underway. Greetings from the Board of Selectmen. This summary is to provide an overview of the short-term rental ordinance draft. A short-term rental is defined in this ordinance as a rental stay of 28 days or less. First, a little history of the circumstances that bring us here. In February of 2022, the Good Neighbor Vacation Rental Coalition, a group of local small business owners, private citizens, and public participants, presented the Board of Selectmen with a letter, industry statistics, and a 6-page short-term rental ordinance draft for our consideration. This group outlined their purpose was to actively participate in the solution for local short-term rental concerns and come up with a solution that promotes responsible renting, avoid overcrowding to ensure safety of guests, and encourage respect for the community we love. This group moved a fully drafted ordinance to exhibit how committed to the process and being part of the solution we are. The selectmen, being aware of local short-term rental concerns, voted to move this document to the ordinance committee for review and editing. This draft short-term rental ordinance was an ordinance committee agenda item from March 2022 through October 2022, at which time the committee voted to send their final version to the selectmen for review. The selectmen held workshops from November 2022 to January of 2023, and there was significant public participation at these meetings. The selectmen submitted the final draft to the town attorney for review in January of 2023. The Good Neighbor Vacation Rental Coalition presented a written request to the board in February of 2023, asking that we halt this ordinance process and instead form an advisory committee to collect local short-term rental data. The town was now 12 months into the short-term rental ordinance process, and the document had already been submitted to the town attorney for review in preparation for this public hearing. The selectmen feel it's important to continue to a scheduled public hearing, as this is the standard procedure for new or revised ordinances, and more importantly, to allow equal opportunity for the public to provide feedback, voice their concerns, and or support for this ordinance and or suggest edits. The Board of Selectmen acknowledges that short-term vacation rentals are a necessity in the region to bring a positive economic impact to our town. The short-term rental impact, positive or negative depending on your point of view, to Rangeley is the year-round rental activity due to the 4-season appeal that brings tourists to our town. Tourists usually rent for a period of a couple of days to 3 to 4 weeks. Thus, short-term rental neighbors see new people coming and going every few days. Living next door to a short-term rental can range from mildly concerning to completely life-altering, especially as Rangeley sees an increasing density of short-term vacation rentals. The primary purpose of this ordinance is to, 1, establish a short-term rental registry. Property owners complete an application to rent their property on a short-term basis. They're issued a registration number and need to renew the application annually. And 2, preserve the character of the neighborhoods in which property owners operate short-term rentals. And 3, impose as minimal of an administrative burden on the town and to address the short-term rentals that violate town code and state law. This proposed ordinance requires any operator of a short-term rental to register annually with the town at no cost. Short-term rental operators must complete an application and submit it to the town clerk. On approval, a registration number is provided. This application collects information such as 24/7 emergency contact info, the maximum capacity of the rental holds, the number of on-site parking spaces. Performance standards are also spelled out so operators familiarize themselves with federal, state, and local law. Also, to comply with building and plumbing code requirements, require that solid waste be removed after visitors leave, and ensure renters don't park in such a way that it affects neighbors' access to their properties. The renters park in such a way that streets are clear for traffic, emergency, and service vehicles. Lastly, prohibited activities and violations of this ordinance may be subject to an administrative per-day penalty. The code enforcement officer will oversee violations as needed no different than any other town code violation. We look forward to civil discussion and a respectful public hearing process, regardless of your stance on short-term rentals. So we encourage folks, if you do wish to speak to your neighbor, just try to keep it quiet so that folks can hear the speaker, and any other comments or questions from the board. So folks, when I call the names of those who have indicated they wish to speak, they're going to come to the podium. The light's already on, right, Sean?
What's that?
That's already a live mic at the podium.
Yes, that's on. Yeah.
Thank you. After speaking, I'll ask the board if you have any follow-up questions or need any clarification. And then we'll move on and call up the next speaker on my list. All right. Mark Beauregard.
My name is Mark Mulligan, resident, also the owner of short-term rental, and so really happy with the rental agency and I've kind of been following progress of the short-term rental ordinance to see how I can thought the ordinance committee did a good job. Good able, not the ordinance committee, and the ordinance committee that was did not as well. But at a recent public workshop on short-term rentals, a member of the public suggested that the occupancy limit of 2 per bedroom. The reason was that language at the top of page 34, put the onus on the property owners to be responsible for complying with federal, state, and local statutes, ordinances, and regulations. And the discussion revolved around a 2-person bedroom limit was a safety issue that the state fire department take care of. Well, that's not the most important issue. 2-person bedroom is matches up with the septic system design and septic system, on-site septic system, 2 people per bedroom, and that's not tied in together. I fear that septic systems fail, overused, and have bad impact on ranges of water resources.
Any questions? Questions for thank you, Mark. Lee Libby.
And the mic around. Hey folks, my name is Lee Libby, Rangeley resident. First of all, I'd like to say I never have been or been in short-term rentals. What you've heard, not true. I was part of the ordinance committee. So a year ago, we were given this document by the Good Neighbor Vacation Rental Coalition. This is a well-written document by a very well-respected town. This ordinance was written renters, owners of the rental property, and neighbors. It's a good document. With some suggestions from the ordinance committee, we handed it off to the selectmen's board. They came up with this. These two documents are very similar. This one is much less restricted than this one. Okay, so I think it's not a restrictive document at all. It's a registration of possible fee. If we find out that the short-term rental industry causes some type of monetary deficit to our economy, we need to figure out how to pay it. A registration with no fee. That's all we're asking. That's it. The state, I know for a fact, has a 200-page plus document right now. They're trying to get their tax and show you that the document is much more restrictive. Thank you.
So we're gonna ask that folks face the board of selectmen when they speak. Thank you, Lee. Linda Sykes.
I must admit, I have not read. I was going on, I got the feeling when I heard strangely moved. I wonder, I do this as if the owner of a property has a rental and there's a problem, neighbors have called, there is a problem, whatever it is. I'm the one, the owner calls from Massachusetts, Rhode Island, etc. I will not have bed at 2 o'clock in the morning. Whether we're talking frozen pipes or we're talking too many people on the property. And I can frankly tell you, when you arrive, either that Friday night or that Saturday morning, I show up on the property when happy, everything okay, and I paid for my service. What I'd like to know is, if there's a problem, if there's a party, who's gonna go at 2 o'clock in the morning? Is it gonna be a town employee? Is it gonna be department, fire department? And you're gonna have inspections before you give them this piece of paper that allows them to rent their property. You know that's gonna be more controversial. And I do think if you're gonna do this, you've got to have somebody that acts. What? You've got to have someone that's going to be there, because then somewhere along the line, you're going to get into an appeal. Somebody's going to say, oh no, this is going to be a long process, it should be short and sweet. Even our regular one. So I just wanted to make that comment because I've been doing this since 1976. Condos on Saddleback, private homes that I take care of now. Okay, thank you.
Any questions? Just to clarify that the 24/7 contact information that the application asks for, the owner has, like you are acting on behalf of the owner as far as emergency contact. That's what the application, requires of short-term owners, is that they have someone that can respond to the police department or town employees, just what your experience. Short-term rentals, no inspections.
There will be no inspection.
Well, there's no inspections written in this one.
I asked a question. I'm going to tell you whether these properties are fire, whether they have to keep this for a second. I mean, is there somebody that's going to go out and inspect this building? There are buildings, and I have refused to take them on because there are sleeping quarters in the basement. I mean, how are you going to deal with that?
Well, that's the onus of the property owner. If they want to operate a short-term rental business, to be responsible themselves.
And if they're not,
it's where there are no inspections out required in this. Thank you. I can read this name. Bill from 108 Proctor Road. No Murphy.
My name is Bill Warren, and I'll get to my resume shortly. I have the privilege of being a private owner and renter, and I'm opposed to this ordinance following you. My relationship with my person, the relationship with my parents is between conditions that he and I have set out. The relationship is privileged that either side that he wants to benefit or not. And the relationship is protected that I pay that for it. And in the terms of that rent, terms of the agreement. Any problem with renters, either short term or long term, can be solved by talking to property owners. The code enforcement officer overworked as is. I've been in the town office 6 times in the last 12 months to get a working address. I don't know if my address is 98 Proctor Road, 102 Proctor Road, 100 Proctor Road, or 108 Proctor Road. I do know that my landlady extended property on twice and uses a walker, and she has to go to the door to pick up my address. And if the town brings me in address, which an 8th grader should be in 60 seconds, code enforcement officer certainly can't enforce this. I've been a selectman in another town, and I understand it's a
5 seconds, Bill.
5 seconds.
Any questions?
Can I ask that people speak in the microphone to the best of their ability?
So when you do get up next, that comes up, just make sure you really adjust the microphone and bring it close to your face. Looks like, no questions, no, Hannah Palin.
Hello, I'm Kenneth Bailey, and I'm a small government guy. I'm kind of worried that the frustration is the first step of a lot more applications. The very second line of the ordinance that says short-term rental is defined as 28-day rental. Just thinking some of that stuff makes me play. And only a couple of things I want to say. One of them is at M&H, we do a lot of site work with people come here, they buy a lot, some of them have a lot of money, some don't have a lot of money. And they come here and say, listen, we've got a little piece of paradise, so I dream to have a place to raise. And they said, what we're gonna do to make this work is we're gonna do some rental to pay insurance, pay taxes, and possibly part of the mortgage. And it's just normal everyday people, Maine and from Massachusetts, all over the place. I just hate to see that locked out of that dream. The other thing is, economy in Maine, I traveled the state for years and years and years. I saw towns from all over, from Augusta all the way up to Moosehead Lake, all the way down to Eastport. That their economy just went to lose. Rangeley is a special place, economy that's based on tourists and rentals. And I hate to see that mess with it very much. You know, Davis Radio, Franklin County, just about pay the tax base and they pay for the kids to go to schools. We're pretty fortunate. So I'm really, what the ordinance actually says now, it's too graphic, but what happens down the road could be big. Thank you.
Thank you, Penny. Any questions? Another name I can't quite read. I'll give you 88 Allen Street because I cannot read. Pardon?
I do fly.
Okay. Thank you, Dennis. Next up is Chris Farmer.
Evening, Chris Farmer, 17 High Street. I appreciate time to be able to speak again at this hearing, and I appreciate the other opportunities that to speak the past few months on this issue. It's obviously a big issue, and a lot of people have opinions a number of different ways. Yes, I was involved back in 2002 as one of the 8 that signed on to proposed ordinance that was brought forward. And yes, Lee brings up the point that there are some similarities and stuff to what has been done, and that we all made your best efforts to go forward with that, and I appreciate it. However, a couple material things have changed since then. One is the state has put together a task force. The state is working on a whole standards of being able to handle this. I akin it to similar to if you want a commercial kitchen in town here, the state comes in and inspects. There's a whole bunch of different things that have to be done. But for me, for instance, I'm a beekeeper, and when I can my bee the honey up, I'm required to fill out a $10 license. Somebody comes, make sure my kitchen thermostat works, make sure I'm not pouring it in a bunch of meat slop and everything else, make sure they're standard. I have faith that the state is going to outline a practice that's going to make perfect sense and the best of people to deal with that. My concern is that we've got a structure here that leaves it wide open to fees. It also starts getting into home-based businesses versus not that we have across our ordinances. And to me, if we table this, I got 14 seconds. Yeah, okay. And to me, I would like you to table this for a few months, see what the state does, because in our form of government here, ordinances have generally passed in June, and then it takes a special meeting in order to revise those. And I think this would be best.
Thank you, Chris. So, just to clarify, so, yeah, after the public hearing process, the board of selectmen decides whether this is put on the warrant for town vote. The board of selectmen, town manager form of government, we don't pass ordinances. We put them forth to the voters to see if this is something we want. And so, thank you, Chris, for your feedback. State's working. Next on the list is Tyler Miller.
Tyler, recall camps. I just real quick want to say a couple of things that I agree with Red over talking with people. I had a little bit of experience renting Airbnbs, and I had a couple Airbnbs staying right around camps. My experience as a whole has been very positive with them. I'm not saying that things don't need to be done or do need to be done, but I am not. I would hate to see the town impose any restrictions that inhibit more people and tourism in this town. We have twice as many restaurants in this town as farmers, and we need to fill every seat in those restaurants more than on Saturday. I don't know about anybody else, but my numbers are great, and we need more people coming to shoulder seasons here. I think any restrictions that would look negative upon the town and people coming here is not a positive thing for us, and I think we can find some.
Questions for Tyler? Maybe, yeah, just to touch on that, there aren't any restrictions, caps in this ordinance. It's an ordinance that serves to collect information. I've got a maybe from Claudia Garner. Okay, thanks, Claudia. I have got a maybe from Josh Heaton.
Right. I'm against this ordinance. I'm not convinced that it's going to have an issue or problem. Certainly not convinced that it's a solution. Can be shelved on the table with the brothers that could be done.
Josh, just a question. What kind of, I mean, we're looking for feedback too, so what kind of research, what kind of data would you want us to look into or try to provide?
I think on that, let's say now that I just bought another property that I have to turn into a short rental.
Sure.
It's really kind of something here about to stay.
Yeah.
Expenses. I just don't think that obviously that compared to that office. Say that.
Thank you. Nancy Douglas.
Well, my name is Nancy Douglas. I am a resident of Rangeley, one of them led us, and I'm a member of the ordinance committee. And I really appreciate the gentler ordinance that's before us, because I know we have this low restricted people and a lot of concerns on that. When I came to Rangeley, I loved it. My husband and I bought property, and one of the first things we did before we got property was ask, could we do a bed and breakfast in a residential area? We were told you can do it up to 5 bedrooms, but you need to get approval from the town. So we went to 3 town meetings, we got CUP, the local inspections, fire department, the whole gamut, water testing, license every year. So it's nothing, absolutely nothing. What we're asking other people to do is to just sign up and say, I have a short-term rental. And where I live right now, within a mile, there are 6 short-term rentals. My concern is that we are going to have areas that will just be all short-term rentals, no maintenance, no building. That's my concern. So by collecting this data and where they are, I hope helps us in where these communities are, how we can make the adjustment, not make people who live here feel like they're being pushed out. We have rights to it.
Any questions from Nancy?
David Douglas, Rangeley resident. The practices, sir. Yes. Thanks. The purpose here, you open up, says home-based short-term rentals. And respected. That's the part that's really good to us. As my wife mentioned, there's 6 or so. Just a couple of examples of fire safety. And I really disagree in the aspect of not having responsible checking on that, because it's not just a matter of making money. I know that's fine. We need the rooms, we need that, but they have to be safe. So hotels that are small, so that are short-term rentals that are part of it. They get them to check. They different life cycle. It's no different That's my concern, is that people are just looking about the safety of the. Recent example, a neighbor just rented it out, house. And there was 6 cars in the driveway. And he only has 3 bedrooms, so in theory, that's 1 person per. But at the end of the day, the infrastructure, the roads, the sewers, everything else is also being, I would clearly need some. Just to state that, yes, I, the owner, signed up that I agree that zoning was correct, electrical was correct. Without being checked. All 4 things, but I'm sure that everybody's safe, especially.
Any questions?
We just make sure again, once again, everyone speaks really clearly in the microphone,
Okay.
like Chris and Lee did. That works for everything. I don't know if everyone can do that, but
Next up is Corinne. One.
Good evening, Select Board. I am Corinne Morton, a Rangeley resident for 23 years, and owner of Sunset Cleaning LLC for 20 years. I have had 50 cleaning clients over those years. My clientele consists of buildings, second homeowners, some that clean their homes, and some that offer short-term. In those 20 years, I have not had any noise complaints, nor have I had any problems with the short-term. Most of my owners are very conscientious owners. They take care of their properties. I've never had a problem. One of them was restricted in a brand new septic system, $29,000 to rent. I just think they give a lot to our community and they do take care of their properties for the short-term rentals. I purchased business insurance, cleaning supplies, lunch, and other items from several regional businesses. My cleaning clients also support me. To numerous Rangeley charitable. 3 of my short-term rental clients came to Rangeley frequently, eventually purchased their own second homes in Rangeley, so now they are paying taxes and contributing to all this. Sunset Cleaning LLC has been my livelihood for the past 20 years, and short-term rental cleanings have been a significant amount of my income. That income has allowed to help pay for college, all of which graduated from this group and go on to these very successful events. I believe STRs are good for Rangeley and contribute a great amount of income to many businesses and charities.
Can't tell if Aaron of 18 High Street wishes to speak or not. Okay, come on down, Aaron. It's on this page.
here, I'm gonna get a little closer to you, so hopefully everyone can hear you.
Good evening. Thanks for having me. My great grandfathers built these railroad tracks that came to this town that are now our roads. I don't want to bore you with that. I was born in Portland, Maine, and as soon as my parents got out of the hospital, this is the first place I came. This is where I was born and raised. I own a house on High Street now. It's our family home. I would not be able to keep it for my family, which is many cousins, many aunts, many uncles, step-parents, step-aunts, if I were not able to rent this out. You know my neighbors, you know High Street, and you've never heard a complaint from my tenants. We're not doing anything extraordinary. I want my family to be able to stay here. Like I said, it's been our whole lives. I want my friends to be able to come here that are respectful, and they are. You've never heard a complaint from them. I'm not doing anything in violation. I'm not overwhelming anyone's restaurant. I'm not overwhelming street parking. I'm not overwhelming a sewer system. I'm just doing like every family that has been here since these railroad tracks came in is hosting our families and friends. And we should be able to continue to do that. Thank you for your time.
Very welcome. Lisa?
Bruce Smith, Rangeley settled back in to 303 Main Street. I support chapter 34. I am not looking to eliminate short-term rentals. I am looking to see them regulated. Codes and ordinances allow officials to manage and maintain the character of small town while balancing the needs of the community as a whole. Example, banning an unlimited amount of food trucks to operate in Rangeley. Mandatory registration yields data needed to determine if concerns are warranted. Self-reporting and website scraping isn't as accurate. It also facilitates the collection and payment of the mandated 9% lodging tax. Reasonable permit fees allow the program to be self-funded even though you are not asking for it, and should not be a hardship on an income-generating property. If you feel that the board has no right to list you as a home-based business, then why do you have the right to claim business deductions on your rentals, on your income tax? This ordinance places no time limits or length of stay requirements on your rental property, and the remaining requirements are easy to comply with. While I support chapter 34, at this time, given the credible threat posed to the ITS system, I am not sure that this should not be shelved and looked at another time. However, I do not find anything within this document to be demonstrable.
Any questions for the room? Thank you very much. Next up is John Sanzaro.
What's your last name?
My name is John Sanazaro. I own a house, 35 Cross Street. And I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. This is a very divisive concept that we're introducing here. It's caused a lot of angst within the town. I'd like to see it basically just disappear, but I realize that actually probably should pump the brakes. I've met a lot of very nice people during this process, and I've been in town for basically almost 35 years. This divisiveness should come to an end. Not in favor of the ordinance. Over 300 people can't be wrong. One of the things that the problem is that the town wants to upload personal information on all the landlords. This could lead to doxing, harassment, and looting. It also, a license is basically asking permission to do what you're already doing, which is rightfully legal. Basically, the FDRs are no different from a long term. Likewise, it's a residential use of a residential property. It's not a business. These issues that come up are really not the issue. I think the issue is that some people in town don't want short-term rentals. Basically, the short-term rentals are the goose that laid the golden egg. And to hamper that in any way is putting an attempt on that goose's life. I think we should pump the brakes.
John, 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Also, the people that own these properties, the town gets a significant amount of tax money from these people, and they don't use a lot of facilities, most specifically the schools. I wish for you to support our candidate, which is Robert LaPointe for selectman. And if you want more information, rangeleyunited.com, freerangeley.org.
We're off topic, John. This is about the ordinance only. So.
Thank you, everyone.
Next up is Debbie Martin.
Hello. Debbie Martin, we own 2718 Main Street, we have 7 Airbnbs. We're in a commercial zone. We have city water and sewer. We have parking, we have a dumpster. Now we're being limited that we have to, how can we possibly get people in the summer to rent their home? So we have decided to shut down all of our land, the ATV trails, the snowmobile trails, the hunting, and fishing on our land, because we're gonna have to use it for our renters and not the public. Unfortunately, we had to get to this, but we feel we've been great neighbors. And now we're taking away our business. We're a business. Okay, we own a business. We pay business taxes. We pay taxes on the rentals, and we're doing everything right. And so we have decided to take our land for our own renters.
What was her name? Deb?
Deb Martin.
Thank you.
Next up, Aaron Wilson.
Good evening, Select Board. Thank you, Chairwoman Egan, for hosting this event tonight. My name is Aaron Bolster. I own Allied Realty. Been fighting for property rights my entire real estate career. And I'm writing as a concerned business owner here in town, oppose any ordinance on short-term rentals. As a citizen of the most favorable place on the planet called United States of America, when you choose to buy a piece of property, you have what we call the bundle of rights. And that is something that is not to be taken lightly. You can choose to live at that property, choose to sell that property, and you can choose to rent that property. And when you need permission to do any of those, it is a full assault, in my opinion, on the bundle of rights. And it separates this place called this United States of America, the state of Maine, and including Rangeley. It separates us from all the other places on earth. And there are problems that do come with short-term rentals. I would not deny that. But I think this is a full assault on the bundle of rights. Most of us know it in the form of a deed. And I just think that it's a slippery slope, and therefore I oppose this chapter 34, this ordinance. Thank you for your time.
Any questions for Aaron? So Aaron, when you mentioned problems with short-term rentals, is there something else that we should be aware of, or?
Well, you guys, somebody in this room must know the problems, otherwise we wouldn't be here in this position. But there are going to be problems that if you have people that come here that don't know the area, there are going to be problems. That's why we already have code enforcement. We already have, it's not like it's a free-for-all out there. We already have all these systems. If you want to build something, you get a permit. Therefore, there's already a lot of systems in place. So I just think it's a big overreach, and I think it's very slippery to go down these roads.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I've got mail warrants as a meeting. I went through and checked my name, can't quite make up the last name.
Have longer versions of my comments because I didn't know it was.
Thank you.
It was short. My name is Wendell Case. And I am a full-time resident of Rangeley. And for background purposes, I moved up here from Southern Maine, 20-year restaurant person,
I also worked on Freeport Economic and Development Board for 9 years and was the chair of Freeport's planning board. Well, I was on the board for 13 and the chair for 11. I do not support Rangeley's Chapter 34 ordinance, and I would recommend that you table it for 3 reasons. The ordinance, in my opinion, is not compliant with your comprehensive plan. It does not seem to be compliant with the most current 2012 comprehensive plan in the housing nor the economy chapters. Competent ordinance language must use the comp plan as a guide for creating regulations based on its content unless there's egregious extenuating developments that demand a deviation from the course of ratified objectives. 2, the problem this ordinance is trying to solve is hard to identify. Well, I know that we're not talking about affordable housing, and that's what I first thought this possibly might be. So it seems like it's a noise, aesthetics, and sense of community issue. There's many ways to address that. I don't think this ordinance does the job. Third point is the execution and enforcement of this ordinance is untenable and costly. I've done a lot of research in this area for Freeport in the past, and I read an white paper by Ehrlich Binzer. It's entitled A Practical Guide to Effectively Regulating Short-Term Rentals. And it gives you kind of an outline on how to go about doing it. Funny part is this guy actually started a company to manage the short-term rental inventory system that most municipalities can't do. It's too cost effective. The compliance rate in San Francisco is 8%. You're going to have people that just are not going to be engaged. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a maybe from Carrie Garth.
Good evening. Thank you for having us, as it's obvious that a lot of our residents are concerned. My property is on 28 High Street. I'm a beekeeper's neighbor. And Aaron's neighbor. And I know we care very much about our community and our residents and our neighbors. So again, thanks. I'm glad we're here. My question, I've heard something about a fee, and I find it conflicting, even in this presentation here. If you look at page 3, it said in like paragraph 3, it says the proposed ordinance requires any operator of a short-term rental to register annually with the town of Rangeley at no cost. Then if you turn the page, let's see, 2 more times, article 34.3 registrations, number 1, you can kind of scroll down through that, but it says, if applicable, each application shall be accompanied by a non-refundable registration fee. So I'm just curious, is there a fee?
Following where you want to.
Okay, so if you start on the very cover page, turn 3 pages. On the 3rd page, 3rd paragraph down, under the primary purpose of this ordinance. Okay, they're listed 1, 2, and 3, and then it says to register annually with the town of Rangeley at no cost.
That is correct. At no
Okay.
cost.
Okay, but then in the actual ordinance, article 34.3 registrations, number 1, it says, if applicable, each application shall be accompanied by a non-refundable registration fee.
It's, if applicable, it's in case, I mean, we are a board of selectmen that really does not want to impose any fees. And any sitting board of selectmen, you know, it's not just with this is ordinances, it's other ordinances where he may be, or licensed fee may be, they're reviewed annually. So this board is not, and is not proposing any fees for registration.
Is there a question?
Questions for Karen?
Does that seem clear to anyone else?
What's the purpose of a public hearing?
Yes, exactly. Time and talking about it, and I think we all care.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And Patrick Egan is a movie. Cindy Martin. Also. Stephanie Turnbull.
For 2 minutes goes by really fast. First of all, I'd like to say I am absolutely shocked that we don't start a meeting like this with pledge of allegiance to our flag. Okay, that said, if you don't see it wrong, no business is being conducted. Part of my 2 minutes, a lot of the majority that are affected by this are not given an opportunity to vote. I would challenge the Board of Selectmen to change the warrant question to ask that the ballot question be included in their tax bill instead of on the warrant. Secondly, also, the tourism, I mean, if we want tourism and we want stuff open, I think we need to support our short-term rentals. And if we really think that this is something that should go through, then everybody should consider whether or not they want to give $50,000 to the Chamber of Commerce and $50,000 to the Snowmobile Club and everybody else on that warrant that's looking for money, that it coincides with our having tourists. Thank you.
What's your last name?
Turnbull, Cross Street,
Okay.
Turn-Bull. Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions for us? Brian St. Louis has a question. Okay. John Morton. Hi.
Good evening. I've got a sore throat, I'm sorry. But I've had more people come to me saying, you should be for this bill. I'm so against this. People that own their own property should be able to do what they want with their property. I don't get it. You're telling people they can't rent. 2 weeks from tomorrow, my family and I are going down to Florida. We're renting an Airbnb. The 5-bedroom house. That person should not be not allowed to rent his property. Like no one in this town should not be rented. We have a shortage of beds in this town. And I mean, we've been in business since 1954. We are the ultimate short-term rental business. And I'm sure it affects us a little bit, but there should not be, the town of Rangeley should not be telling people's property owners what to do with their property. If they want to rent it, I have not heard, is there a problem with, I've heard nothing wrong about short-term rentals. I haven't heard anything about crime, loud, I mean, I've heard nothing. And I don't know why the town of Rangeley is going this way. Thank you.
So, just get your full-
Okay, yep.
So, in the introduction, so it was a group that came to us, requesting the short-term rental ordinance.
Okay,
And they drafted it, so that's, Elizabeth Eastlack, Kelly Grant O'Neill, Bruce Lancaster, Aaron Murphy, Chris Farmer, Kelly Stokes, Marjorie Jameson, Beth Smith, and Ethel Thompson were all part of the group that requested. answer your question.
Okay, I just. I don't know why they would do that, but it doesn't make any sense to me why they would want to, it doesn't make any sense to me. But I'm just saying, Town Lake Hotel is so against that ordinance.
Thank you. Dan Patterson.
Good evening, Dan Patterson. I have a place that I own in the Barker since 2009. Barker is located off of the Bald Mountain Road next to Filbert Camps in DMC. How many camps you got? Like 12? I'm also directly across the road from the Bald Mountain Trailhead. We see about 40 to 50 to 60 cars parked throughout the course of the day, Saturday, Thursday, Wednesday, all summer long. There are 20 camps in the Barker, seasonal camps. And we get overwhelmed more so with family and friends of renters. There's only one full-time short-term rental in the Barker, and then 3 that are rented maybe 2 to 4 weeks. People do it to pay their taxes, pay their lawn guy, pay their maintenance guy, pay the plumbing bill. And we have in 14 years, 20-person road association with a bunch of old curmudgeons. We have 0 complaints from our rentals. We see families coming back, generational. Last summer, the family across from me at the casino rented to a family that's been coming arranging 30 years. And it's just wonderful people. We meet tons of different kids. My kids play with kids from Pennsylvania once a year during the week that they're at the Poet Lodge. And I could go on for half an hour about the history of the Barker Hotel and steamship coming into the railroad, like Mary mentioned, and the trade that was the tourist trade that was built here for over 100 years. Oh, no.
Everyone who was signed up. Did I miss anybody?
What was Dan's last name?
Patterson.
Patterson, thank you.
Did you want to speak? Come on down.
The purple one, yes.
Okay.
Thank you for hearing me. My name is Cliff Erickson. I have property at 59 Conifer Road, full-time resident in upstate New York, and spend as much time as humanly possible here in Rangeley. I've been increasing significantly over the last few years. I would have a great deal of difficulty keeping the house without the short-term rental. It covers the taxes. As I was joking to someone earlier today, I pay 100% of my taxes, but get 0% of voting on this particular issue. So I do appreciate you hearing it. I have 2 significant concerns. Number one, I'm not entirely certain what this is meant to address, despite reading all the stuff that's been published and so forth. Is it a noise issue? Is it an EMS utilization issue? Is it a housing issue? These are all separate problems that have separate answers. And then to get to the other point about inspections, there's been a couple of times we said there were no inspections associated with this, but in 3445, the code enforcement officer is authorized to inspect the STR property upon receipt of any code violation. Is that an email? Is that a call? Is that a text, an anonymous tip? Are there limits? Is it 3 times a year, 5 times a year if someone's not happy with their neighbor and just complains? And then in 34.5.4, it says the code enforcement officer may, with appropriate notice, make inspections of any short-term rental property to determine compliance with this ordinance or other law. So is that forever warrantless search option? I'm a little confused about that. We are good neighbors. My neighbors all have my cell phone number. They have thankfully never had to use it for a short-term rental issue. One time in 6 years, we had an issue and those persons were talked to and taken, never been rented to again. They're gone. And so we try and be good stewards of our property and good stewards of the region. And we just oppose the vagueness and ambiguities within this. Thank you.
Did we miss anyone else? No, come on in.
This is Beth Sapolsky. I live at 36 Marion Drive in Rangeley. Here as a private citizen, we live in HOLA, which is the Highlands Overlook Landowners Association, and we have had several problems with short-term rentals. Not with the owners. They know what the rules are and they post them, and we send out stuff that says what the rules are, and they post them, but people you rent to, if you have multiple renters, one of them a year or one every other year has a problem, and you've got a lot of short-term rentals, you end up with a lot of problems, and there are a lot of short-term rentals in our Highlands. So, one personal short-term rental, I'd say that's an example of a problem. Well, we had a problem. This past fall, we were out in our yard in front of our house, cutting down brush, the trees down and keep it clear. And all of a sudden, we're a little electric chainsaw. Zzz, zzz, and then all of a sudden we hear bang, 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 bang. Gunshots, right next door, the guy next door. And we know that's a short-term rental. And we go, okay, we just wait a second. It's like, I want to go talk to him. You want to talk to him? No, I don't want to talk to him. So we just, finished a little more, and then it's like, said, okay, that's it, we're out of here. And so we went up to the house and called the police sheriff or whatever it was, 911, and said, what's going on? Somebody should talk to him. They shouldn't be shooting in a residential area. And so he came, he talked to him. And that was, and the guy, we know the guy who owns it. It was a transfer from an old man who passed away and his children run it now. And it's only, as far as I know, it's only a short-term rental. I don't think they come up at all. But anyway, there are problems. And if we knew who to call, that would be nice. And it would be good for the neighbor to know that their renter is misbehaving. Thank you, John. Any questions for them?
Sort of. Garrock, Rangeley, when our municipal officer showed up, was that addressed, that situation was taken care of and resolved?
Well, as far as I know, I didn't.
Of course not, but it was resolved, it didn't happen again.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak to the chapter 34 ordinance? I think we made through the attendance sheets, and I said indicated yes. Yes, sir. Yes, come on down.
Mark Holden, we own two places. One on Sable Lane in Rangeley and one on William Road. William Road is a rental. We actually purchased that because we couldn't afford to build a new house because the pricing came in and we went with the William Road property. We bought it because of the rental history, therefore we could afford to buy a second property. One thing I'd like to say is 14, we bought the first one. Saddleback closed next year. And we know the economy here struggled. And I think one thing, for one, I'm against definitely been against the ordinance. And one thing we need to remember is where this town's been in the last several years. And don't forget where you've been, because at the end of the day, if you put an ordinance like this, you're going to turn off a lot of people. It's been a negative for me in the short time that I've known about it. So be aware that it's going to impact the area economically. economically, and don't forget about where you've been. Thank you.
Mark Whitehill, 22 Marina Road. I made a promise to myself I wasn't gonna say a damn thing here tonight, but I got a question I think everybody ought to stop and think about. Are we trying to address a problem that doesn't exist?
Any other comments or questions? Going once, going twice.
My name is Reed Wisnowski, 2 Summer Lane, Rangeley, Maine. Rangeley, Maine as of December 23rd, 2022. So I haven't been here that long, but I have been a long-term rental for a number of years. And I think no matter what side we land on, I think we're all after the same goal. We're all here as concerned citizens. We all want the same goal to preserve what we have. There's just a misunderstanding or a matter of disagreement in terms of how we solve that problem. And for me, you had asked a comment earlier, and you were saying, well, what would you like the selectmen to do in terms of what data would you like to provide these citizens to see whether this problem does indeed exist? And I think really the thing that I would be looking for would be things like from our local police department, our other enforcement officials, to do some sort of data collection that says the numbers on short-term rentals are not in line with the calls that we're getting from residents. And so I don't know that we've actually identified the problem. And so I would say we're collecting data that says that, you know, we've got a large percentage of calls from our and straining, you know, the resources that the town has with short-term rentals, then a problem exists. We have to solve it. But I'm not convinced that that problem exists. I think the way to do that is to shelve this and do a little bit more research on whether these short-term rentals are indeed putting a strain on our services and on our community. Thank you.
What was your name, sir?
Wisnowski.
Yeah, that was hard. I don't know.
WISCH. And
All right.
SKY.
We will close
First
the
thing
public
done that,
hearing.
yeah.
There are no more comments. Thank you all for coming.
Oh, yeah.